The Trung sisters, whose real names were Trung Chuk and Trung Nhi, were siblings born into an aristocratic Lac Viet family in Mê Linh district, now part of Hanoi, around the end of the 1st century BCE. From a young age, they were known for being intelligent, courageous, and deeply patriotic women. Trung Chuk, the elder sister, was a heroic woman who understood the political turmoil of the time and harbored deep resentment against the oppressive rule of the Eastern Han dynasty. She married T. Sat, a Lac general of Chu Dien, who shared her aspirations of resisting the brutal foreign domination. The unjust death of her husband at the hands of the governor To Dinh ignited the flames of rebellion within her. Trung Nhi, the younger sister, was not only a close companion, but also a steadfast right hand to her sister throughout the uprising. With her bravery, sharp intellect, and unyielding spirit, she became an exemplary figure representing the resilience of Vietnamese women in history. The Trung sisters were the first women in Vietnamese history to lead a great rebellion against foreign occupation, reclaiming independence and autonomy for the nation, even if only for a brief time. The image of the sisters riding elephants into battle, fearlessly leading their troops, has become a sacred symbol of national pride, passed down through generations as a powerful emblem of Vietnam's enduring spirit. Historical context. By the end of the 1st century BCE, Vietnam fell under the domination of the Han dynasty, a powerful feudal empire of China at the time. After the fall of the Triều dynasty, Nam Viet, in 111 BCE, the Han officially annexed the territory of Olac, as Vietnam was known then, into their map and divided it into 3 major commanderies, Giao Chi, Cu Chun, and Nhật Nam. This marked a dark period that lasted for hundreds of years, known in historical records as the First Era of Northern Domination. The Han government sent governors, military officers, and Chinese officials to directly rule the land. Among them, To Dinh, the governor of Giao Chi, became infamous for his cruelty, greed, and brutality. He heavily exploited the people through increased taxation and forced labor, while also attempting to assimilate Vietnamese culture by enforcing Chinese writing, clothing, beliefs, and rituals. The Vietnamese were treated as subjugated people without any autonomy. The lives of the people were filled with suffering and hardship. Traditional customs of the Lac Viet people were banned. Local Lac lords lost their power or were completely removed, and authority was centralized in the hands of the Han rulers. Resentment and dissatisfaction grew among the population. Across the land, the seeds of rebellion began to smolder. However, due to the lack of unified organization and leadership, earlier scattered resistances were all brutally suppressed. In that context, the spirit of patriotism, hatred toward the invaders, and the desire to regain national independence burned ever stronger. The death of T. Sac, husband of Trung Chuk, at the hands of To Dinh became the final straw, compelling the Trung sisters to raise the banner of revolt, sparking a blazing movement of resistance that history would forever remember. Origins and causes of the uprising, background of the Trung sisters. The Trung sisters were biological siblings born into an aristocratic Lac Viet family, descending from a line of Lac lords in Mê Linh district, now Mê Linh district, Hanoi. The elder sister was Trung Chuk and the younger was Trung Nhi. From a young age, both were known for their intelligence, love of learning, and strong, unyielding spirit that refused to bow to injustice. Trung Chuk was a woman with progressive thinking and a deep sense of patriotism. She married T. Sac, the son of a Lac lord in Chu Dien, now in Hưng Yên province. T. Sac was also a man of great ambition, often discussing with his wife the sorrow of losing their country and ways to free the people from the brutal domination of the Han. Because of his firm stance and covert opposition to Han rule, T. Sac was targeted and assassinated by Governor To Dinh, who aimed to send a warning and eliminate the seeds of rebellion. Causes of the uprising. The death of T. Sac ignited a flame of rage in Trung Chuk. Turning personal grief into action, she was determined not to let her husband's death be in vain, and rose up to seek justice and national independence. Alongside her sister Trung Nhi, a brave, intelligent, and loyal companion, she began rallying troops and calling upon Lac lords and the people from all regions to join the uprising. However, the causes of the rebellion extended beyond personal vengeance and stemmed from the collective suffering of the entire nation. the Han government implemented harsh exploitation policies, imposing heavy taxes and forced labor. Indigenous customs, beliefs, and culture were suppressed. The power of local lac lords and the Vietnamese people was stripped away. The people lived under constant oppression, without autonomy, treated as second-class citizens in their own homeland. Previous uprisings had all been crushed, but the anger among the population never faded. In that darkest hour, the Trưng sisters became symbols of courage, rising up to voice the cries of their nation. Their rebellion was like a thunderbolt in the long night of slavery, awakening the indomitable spirit of the Lac Viet people after centuries of domination. Progress of the uprising, year 40 AD. The uprising erupted in Hat Mon. In the spring of the year 40 AD, amid a surging wave of national spirit and peak resentment following the death of Thi Sac, the Trưng sisters officially launched their uprising in Hat Mon, now part of Phuc Thot District, Hanoi. This place is considered the initial point of resistance and a sacred historical site associated with the glorious rebellion. The Trưng Six support. The Trưng sisters' call to arms quickly spread throughout the Lac Viet region. Lac lords and tribal chiefs from districts such as Giao Chi, Cu Chun, and Nhiet Nam, along with tens of thousands of people, eagerly joined the cause. In a short time, a large and powerful insurgent force was formed. Notably, many women generals participated and became key figures, such as Phung Thị Chinh, Lê Chun, Thieu Hoa, Trần Thị Lan, Nguyen Thị Minh, proving the significant role of women in the resistance movement. Lightning victory. Liberation of 65 citadels. With bold strategies, courage, and nationwide unity, the uprising advanced rapidly like a storm. Han-controlled districts were swiftly seized by the insurgent forces. The enemy was caught off guard and unable to respond to the overwhelming and sudden strength of the rebellion. In less than a month, 65 citadels were taken and reclaimed. The cruel governor To Dinh was defeated and fled back to China. The Han administration in Giao Chi completely collapsed. This was a resounding victory that not only shattered over 200 years of northern domination, but also marked a brief yet deeply meaningful period of independence in Vietnamese history. Trung Trắc ascended the throne, capital at Mê Linh. Following the victory, Trung Trắc was proclaimed queen, taking the title Trưng Nữ Vương. She established an independent court with the capital at Mê Linh, the sisters' homeland. She restored the former lac lord system, revived local culture, abolished Han-imposed laws and taxes, and brought stability back to the people's lives. Trưng Nữ Vương reigned for 3 years, 40 to 43 AD, earning the respect and support of the people, establishing a short yet proud era of independence under native Vietnamese rule. The Han counterattack and the tragic death of the Trưng sisters, the Eastern Han's plan to retake Giao Chi. After their crushing defeat in 40 AD, the Eastern Han dynasty was unwilling to lose Giao Chi, a land rich in resources and of strategic importance in the south. Emperor Guangwu of Han devised a plan to reclaim the territory and launched preparations for a major counteroffensive. By the year 42 AD, the Han mobilized a massive army led by General Ma Yuan, a seasoned and battle-hardened commander. Ma Yuan brought with him tens of thousands of elite troops, along with advanced weaponry, ample supplies, and various combat equipment. In addition to land forces, the Han army also used water routes to swiftly enter Giao Chi. Valiant resistance by the insurgents. Facing the overwhelming and experienced Han forces, the Trưng sisters poured all their efforts into organizing resistance, rallying troops from across the districts. However, after 3 years of independence, the insurgent forces had weakened, lacking in weapons, combat experience, and strong coordination. Moreover, the Han army had prepared thoroughly and targeted the strategic weaknesses of the uprising, gradually regaining control. Despite the odds, the Trưng sisters held their ground with unyielding determination. Fierce battles erupted along the Red River, Day River, and Cao River, significantly delaying the enemy's advance. But eventually, under immense pressure, the insurgent forces gradually disintegrated. The heroic death of the Trưng sisters. According to historical records and legends, when the situation became hopeless, the Trưng sisters chose death over surrender to preserve their honor. They leapt into the Hat River, now in Phuc Thot District, Hanoi, ending their glorious lives. Folklore tells that after their passing, the heavens shook and thunder roared, as if mourning and honoring the two heroines. Temples dedicated to the Trung sisters were established in many places, such as Hat Mon, Dong Nhuân, Hanoi, and Mê Linh, reflecting the people's deep reverence and gratitude. The life and death of the Trung sisters are not only a heroic chapter in history, but also an eternal symbol of the indomitable spirit and fierce bravery of Vietnamese women in particular and the Vietnamese people as a whole. Although the uprising was ultimately unsuccessful, the light of their courageous deeds continues to shine to this day. Historical significance. Although the Trung sisters' uprising maintained independence for only 3 short years, 40 to 43 AD, it left a profound and lasting impact on the history of the Vietnamese nation. This was not only the first movement for autonomy after the period of Northern domination, but also a shining symbol of patriotism, resilient will, and heroic spirit of the Vietnamese people. Below are the key historical significances of the uprising. The beginning of the national tradition of fighting for independence. The Trung Sisters uprising was the first major resistance by the Vietnamese against Northern domination after over 2 centuries of brutal rule and cultural assimilation. Though it was a military failure, the rebellion ignited a strong patriotic spirit and inspired later uprisings, such as those led by Lady Triều, Mai Thúc Loan, Li Bi, and Phung Hung. Affirmation of unity and the power of the people. The uprising was not an isolated act by a few individuals, but a movement strongly supported by all social classes, from local lacklords to common people, and especially women. This unity demonstrated the power of the nation to rise up strongly when united by a common ideal, reclaiming national sovereignty. Honoring the role and status of women in national history. The Trung sisters are vivid evidence that Vietnamese women were not only supporters in the background, but could also lead, command troops, and establish governance. This was extremely rare in the ancient world. Therefore, the Trung sisters are regarded as noble symbols of Vietnamese women and a timeless source of inspiration for future generations, embodying courage and sacrifice. Assertion of national independence and cultural identity. Overthrowing the Han administration and establishing an independent regime in Mê Linh demonstrated the Vietnamese people's persistent desire for self-rule and refusal to accept subjugation. The uprising also contributed to the preservation of local culture, customs, and traditional beliefs in the face of harsh assimilation policies from the North. Becoming an eternal symbol in the national consciousness. The image of the Trung sisters riding elephants into battle, fearlessly charging through waves of swords and spears, has become immortalized in poetry, legends, festivals, and temples, a sacred symbol of patriotism and unyielding spirit. Thousands of years later, their names are still remembered with pride, reverence, and deep gratitude. Though the Trung sisters' uprising lasted only 3 years, it opened a new chapter in Vietnamese history, one of resistance, independence, and freedom. It was the first spark of light in the long night of Northern domination, guiding future generations of heroes to continue the cause of defending and building the nation. Commemoration and honor of the Trung sisters. After the heroic sacrifice of the Trung sisters, the image of the 2 warrior women riding elephants into battle became an eternal symbol in the hearts of the Vietnamese people. Though over 2,000 years have passed, their courage and patriotism continue to be remembered, honored, and passed down through generations. Venerated as saints and worshipped nationwide. Immediately after their martyrdom, people in regions such as Mê Linh, Hat Mon, Dong Nhuân, and many others built temples to worship the Trung sisters, venerating them as sacred figures. They were not only heroes in the fight against foreign invaders, but also symbols of loyalty, virtue, and national pride. The Trung Sisters Temple in Mê Linh, Hanoi, considered the most sacred site associated with their homeland and the brief reign of their independent court. Hat Mon Temple, Phuc Thọ District, Hanoi, the place where the uprising was launched, recognized as the birthplace of the resistance movement. Dong Nhuân Temple, Hai Ba Trung District, Hanoi, where the people built a shrine and annually organized grand ceremonies to honor their contributions. In addition, many provinces and cities across the country have shrines, temples, and communal houses dedicated to the Trung sisters, reflecting the deep gratitude of the people for the legacy of these 2 heroines. The Trung Sisters Festival, a cultural tradition. Each year, on the sixth day of the second lunar month, commemorating the victory of the Trung Sisters, traditional festivals are held in various locations, especially in Mê Linh and Hat Mon. The festivals include solemn rituals such as processions of the sisters' palanquins, ceremonial offerings, and incense to pay tribute. Folk cultural activities like cheo singing, dragon dancing, wrestling, and reenactments of the sisters riding elephants into battle. Celebrations that express national pride, patriotism, and serve to educate younger generations about their roots. The festival is not only religious and cultural in nature, but also an occasion for the people to recall the nation's glorious tradition of resisting foreign domination, honored in education and popular culture. The names of the Trung sisters are given to the Hai Ba Trung district in Hanoi, as well as to many streets, schools, hospitals, and parks across the country. Their uprising is recorded in official historical texts such as the Daivit Su Ki Tuan Thu and is featured in numerous literary works, poems, and folk legends. The image of the Trung sisters appears on postage stamps, monuments, reliefs, textbooks, and educational materials as exemplary models of patriotism and the vital role of women in national history. Relevance in the modern era. Honoring the Trung sisters today is not merely remembering a past victory, it carries great significance for the present and the future. It reminds Vietnamese people of national pride and the importance of defending sovereignty and independence, rekindles pride in the heroic tradition and indomitable spirit of the ancestors, affirms the role of women in building and defending the nation, both in the past and in the modern era. The Trung sisters are not only the first heroines to lead a resistance against foreign invaders in Vietnamese history, but also the eternal soul of patriotism, courage, and national pride. Although their uprising occurred over 2,000 years ago, their names remain forever engraved in the hearts of the Vietnamese people as a sacred flame lighting the path of nation building and defense for generations to come. The uprising of the Trung sisters is a brilliant milestone in the history of the Vietnamese nation. Under the brutal rule of the Eastern Han Dynasty, amidst the suffering of the people, the Trung sisters, two exceptional women of the nation, bravely rose up, uniting the people's will and regaining independence for the country, though only for a brief yet proud period. Although the uprising did not achieve long-lasting success, it left behind profound historical, cultural, and spiritual values. It ignited and inspired the indomitable tradition of fighting for independence and freedom in the Vietnamese people. It affirmed the pioneering role of Vietnamese women in history, not only on the battlefield, but also in leading and defending the nation. It created a sacred symbol of resilience, patriotism, and the yearning for freedom, values that remain essential in every era. Today, the Trung sisters are not only a source of historical pride, but also shining examples of courage, sacrifice, and a strong sense of national responsibility. Honoring, remembering, and learning from them is not only a tribute to the forebears, but also a way to nurture patriotism and civic responsibility in future generations.